Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we've got a top 16 breakdown for the Top Cut events Roanoke Regionals that happened this past weekend. They had over 100 players, 7 rounds of Swiss into this top 16 that we see here today. And a couple things before we get started. First, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of Fusion World content, and I don't want you guys to miss it. Also, if you guys want deck lists for this event and many others, you can find them on my website, which is behind me and linked in the description too, so you can make sure to check that out. And then also I do want to thank Top Cut for letting myself and Dane do the commentary for the event. It was a lot of fun, and you can find it linked in the description as well as linked on this page if you guys want to see the games as well. So jumping into this one, this is the first big event with SB01 legal for the English version of this game, right? So again, 117 players, 7 rounds of Swiss, SB01 legal, and July 1st restriction list in effect. So that means that Bobbity is at 1 copy, and then we also have Pilaf, at 0 copies. And of that, we do have a top 16 of 8 copies of the new Majin Buu, 3 copies of the new Cell, 1 of the Baby Vegeta, which ended up winning the event, 1 of the FB02 Vegeta, 1 of the Majin Buu Evil, 1 of the Son Goku Mini Daima from FB05, and an Aandroidd 18 from FB06. So clearly, it's yellow is very good. I don't think that's surprising a lot of people going into this format. We're going to look at the deck list as well for this deck, but it's very, very strong right now. And I think that the biggest reason for it is that this is a deck that has a lot of cards that really can't be interacted with, right? With a lot of barrier cards, which most decks really can't do anything about, and that makes it very tough to interact with how this deck works. How it has kind of like a emergency defense button as well if they ever are facing like a really big attack. And I do think that it is something that is strong. I do think there are ways to counter the deck specifically, which we'll look at the first place deck list for that as well. But also it means that you're kind of sacrificing a lot of other matchups just to be good in like the most common matchup too. So also you're going to see like we do have the full leader breakdown here. Buu's not like, not absurdly present for this event, right? Only 23 people were on the deck and 8 people were able to get a top 16 conversion, right? So that's like a really strong conversion for Buu's favor, right? Cell was about 1 for 1, right? We had 20 people with it in the event, and we were able to get 3 of them into the top 16. Very surprising to me is that we didn't have any green in the top 16. We're going to look at a couple of green decks at the end of this video too, but none of them were able to really convert. And honestly, like most of the top leaders like were not in the top 16, right? Like Bardock didn't make it. Vegeta made 1 copy. Shallot didn't make it. Son Goku Childhood didn't make it, right? It's really interesting to see what decks converted for this event based on how many people are actually on it as well. So we are going to go over the top 16 deck list with the unique deck list. We also do have the kind of unique top 32 as well. So we've got FB04 Vegeta, FB04 Son Goku, Janemba, Piccolo, Broly BR, and Son Goku GT. So we're going to go over it. If you guys only care about 1 or 2 decks, you can find them in the timestamps, but let's get to our first place list. So this is DBS God's version of the Baby Vegeta, and I've been really like in tuned with how good that the black decks are against specifically Buu, mostly with their interactions of one, they have kind of a difficult time removing Son Goku GT, right? This has always been a good card for black since it came out in FB03. Most decks just kind of have to run the card. It gets too much value, and Buu's not really good at like actually removing this card, right? They're good for stunning it. They can prevent you from making an energy marker for it. But if you play this on curve, like it gets you like an extra draw every turn throughout the rest of the game, which I think is really, really strong. So there's also some great interactions. Like I think Grade 8 Baby being able to remove a 3 cost is great. The fact that we also have a way for the Son Goten GT to remove the specifically the 4-drop Buu before they're able to do anything with it, right? It puts it back to their hand so they can play it again next turn, but it's a little bit slow, right? Like the fact that you are able to prevent them from going off, I think is very strong there. We've been seeing like a lot of value from Trunks GT. I don't think this is too surprising for the deck. This is kind of like the value engine, and honestly, like a lot of what we see in this deck is not restricted to Baby Vegeta, right? We do have the engine that makes it more unique, right? With the Baby Possessed Boy form, the Trunks GT, and obviously the Goten, which you talked about, which this card is not like strictly restricted to Baby, and I know a lot of black decks without Baby as their leader play it as well, but you just are able to take advantage of like all the value, all the extra attacks you get to do. And I think that if you are able to, in this format, in most formats too, the number of attacks that you get is kind of better than how big the attacks are, specifically against Boo too, where they kind of can get out of an attack for free every turn with their blocker barrier. If you're doing like 4 or 5 kind of relevant attacks in a turn, it means that they have a hard time like actually deciding when to block or not. So in general, I think this deck is really strong. I think it's really good against Boo specifically. I think it does have a bit of a rough matchup into Red, which we'll talk about in a little bit too, but all of this has been really strong. I know we're not like, there's nothing like even really new, right? Our newest cards are like Chi Chi Childhood, which is fantastic as like a self-awakener, but also for getting like a 20k for one, for 1 energy, which is kind of crazy. And then also the 6-drop Gogeta. Obviously this prevents like any restanding that Boo gets to do. So they kind of have to commit to, do I want to attack with my blocker barrier or just block with it, right? Since I can't restand it at the end of turn, it means that the 3-drop and 4-drop Boos that restand also can't do that with their own effects, and that just makes it really, really strong. So in general, I think that this deck is in a good spot for specifically Boo. We'll talk about some other decks too, but big congratulations for their first place finish with Baby Vegeta. Next up, we've got Majin Buu Evil, and we've got the second place list, which is Nick's version of the deck here. And you will see like there is a good amount of variety across all these Majin Buu decks. We're only going to go over this one, not the other 7 that additionally topped, but it's pretty clear to me what this deck looks like right now, right? We are obviously playing like the new 2-drop Bobbity, as well as the 3-drop Majin Buu. I think most people are at 3 copies, not the full 4. It doesn't matter if you get this on curve, though it is really nice against a lot of matchups. You just kind of need to eventually establish this Majin Buu, right? And then we do have like a lot of flexibility on like their 5-drop Majin Buu Kid, right? Being able to play out pretty much every card in this deck, right? Most cards in this deck you can play off this, so whatever the situation. The only one you can't do is Son Goku, are also the Frieza, right? Or some of the 1-drops, but the most like impactful cards you get to play are really, really nice, right? Obviously playing Majin Buu Kid off of it to be able to get this effect is nice. Some spots you can play 2-drop Bobbity off of it, so you have a 35k double strike that you can restand itself, right? We have ways to attack more than once, so Majin Buu Kid as well as Majin Buu Evil, as kind of mentioned, these kind of get like your 30k attacks that you need for it. And now we kind of have like an in-archetype like Frieza. Obviously it's not as good as Secret Rare Frieza outright, but the fact that this does offer like hard removal against a lot of decks that have it, like this gets rid of Jiren, right? You do have to make sure that it only plays Majin Buu Evils and is only with absorption in skill, right? So the only card this can actually play is the 4-drop here and the 3-drop here, right? So it's not, it can't play the Majin Buu Kid, and we did have like an incident on stream for that too, but it's still like is good removal, right? If you need to remove a card, this is a great way to do it because it doesn't KO it, right? It gets around KO protection. You can get around your opponent's Majin Buu Evil 4-drop, or sorry, Majin Buu Kid 4-drop as well, since again it only has KO protection. So it's really interesting how the card works, right? It's only rest of battle cards with the cost 5 or less, but being able to get that removal I think is really strong for the deck too. So otherwise, I do think that this deck doesn't like, it does some absurd things. You do still have to kind of high roll for it at times. The game kind of depends on if you can play Bobbity on 2 and you have no way to search it, you just have to hard draw it. But if you do play it on 2, there's a lot of ways to get value throughout the rest of the game. So here's a build from Nick, and congratulations for their second place finish with the Majin Buu Evil. Next up, we've got Vegeta. So this is Poseidon's version of the deck, and this is one that I think caught myself and a lot of others surprised that I was able to go X1, right? It didn't it wasn't like an X2 kind of sneak into top 16. This was a really good finish for Vegeta here, right? And I know a lot of people were afraid to play this deck, mostly because of its leader skill, right? End of your turn, switch up to 2 of your rest mode energy to active mode, which means that if you were playing against specifically the Majin Buu, like this taps every energy that you have. Doesn't matter what it is, and it is like there is an errata for this card too, right? But the thing with this Vegeta is that like you just get so much advantage from having that energy for defense, right? For specifically the results of training, for the time we round, and your opponent can just say, I play 4-drop Buu, and now you have a handful of bricks, right? So I know a lot of people were discouraged from playing this deck, but this is also a deck that can take advantage of specifically the new Bobbity as well. This card's not like locked to a Majin trait leader, which is interesting that they didn't do that because it's still like a really good effect, but is something that Vegeta can take advantage of. I do think like Vegeta is one of the better decks to take advantage of 4-drop Frieza as well, which is good. A lot of people I don't think are respecting like how good a 6-drop Golden Frieza can affect their board as well. So I think it's a deck that you do need to know specifically how to play against Boo and the best way to do so. I won't claim to know what that is either, but I do know that like if you are able to get to that spot, where you can be safe with them tapping you out, the deck is still good, right? Yellow just has like a lot of like proactive, ways to interact with your opponent too. Frieza being also just like a great way to interact with specifically 4-drop Boo after the fact. So I think all that's really strong. I'd have to see what the matchups look like for the entire day for it, but I think that this deck is still viable. You do just have to be like really aware on what that matchup is, and if you feel at least like moderately comfortable against Majin Buu Evil, I think this deck can still do well. So here's a build from Poseidon. Congratulations for their top 8 with Vegeta. And then last yellow deck in the top 8, we do have an X1 with Gingerfusion's version of the Majin Buu Evil from FB04. So I know a lot of people are considering what this deck would look like. Most people are on SB01, right? Like clearly less than 5 people are on this deck for the weekend, right? But I do respect that this deck is still good. It has its own ways to interact with things. I do think that, and like the other kind of thing to note is that this Bobbity effect, this Bobbity effect is really good, but if you're using like the 2-drop Bobbity, you could like have a blocker and then get the energy back on your opponent's turn and have stuff for results of training. But this is still just like the same deck we're running for the last little bit, right? We are adding like some new tools like the Majin Buu Pure Evil, the Majin Buu Good, as well as Majin Buu Kid, right? And the fact that this is when KO'd is when this effect activates. So you can KO yourself with Majin Buu Evil, with Majin Buu Kid here, and then if you do so, you're able to not only like tap out your opponent, get like an extra card draw, and then also get to restand an energy or restand this leader. But I think you just get like a lot of interaction, right? So you don't actually mind popping this as much in this build when you're not playing 2-drop Bobbity for the blocker. You also can do something silly like you can have this Majin Buu Kid. This 1 KO, discard 1 card from your hand. If your leader is Majin as special traits, put it to Majin Buu Kid with a cost of 4 less from your drop in rest mode. So you can KO this with Majin Buu Evil, and then you can go into Majin Buu Kid. And if your opponent doesn't respect that they can be tapped out from that kind of spot, it can be really dangerous too. So it's an interesting build, kind of like more aggressive leaning. This is also a deck that can just draw a whole lot more cards just by the nature of one, you get that double attack, right? You don't really care about setting up the 2-drop on board. You're just going a lot more in the face, and I think that can help you a lot too. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Gingerfusion, my goodness, for their top 8 finish with Majin Buu Evil. And to wrap up the top 8, we've got one red deck. This is the Cell from Sensei, who was able to sneak into 8th place with this X2 finish here. But I know a lot of people have been playing Cell. I think it's a really fun deck right now, and obviously really new with the new SB01 stuff. So there has been like a lot of like different builds that I've been seeing in particular. One kind of same thing that I've been seeing though is a lot of people are on the 4-drop Cell into 5-drop Cell. This is a combo where I wasn't sure if it was like too expensive for what it did or if it was too difficult to get it set up, but the fact that you are able to do it mildly consistently right, especially like some decks just really can't get rid of all these 1-drop Aandroidd 18s. So if that's the case, you're able to, go into a 5-drop a turn early, which is great. The fact that it has like recursion, not only like it lets you draw a 10k from your drop, but also the fact that when it gets KO'd, you get to play something. I don't think people are generally KOing this card as much, but it is kind of like a good thing against Broly BR, so they can like KO your guy and then you play a blocker afterwards. That's kind of nice too. And all that aside, like I think this deck has a lot of cool combos and interactions with a lot of decks. So one thing that I think does keep this deck back a little bit is that against yellow, they have so many barrier cards that you just can't interact with because of how barrier works. Because otherwise, like you would love to get rid of their 2-drop Bobbity or even like their 3-drop Majin Buu a little bit more consistently, and you just can't because of how the mechanics work too. But I have been seeing more people add a couple copies of this Vegeta. This is just like kind of a great way to convert into like a 50k power for only like 3 energy and 3 cards, right? Which is great. The KO effect is sometimes good too. For what it's worth, you only get the kind of leader effect if you a battle card with Aandroidd and special traits is removed from your battle area. So Aandroidd 16 is, I think, is still like the premier way to do it. But I do think that there are some times where Vegeta is just like better in that slot as well. So other than that, I do think that this deck is cool. I know a lot of people have been kind of like bouncing around like what are the best extras for this deck. I think self-destruct is clearly the best one at this point. Most people are running it at 3 or 4 copies. I have been seeing like, you know, the occasional instant transmission, just because it is like really good with Cell Jr. If they think that you're done attacking for the turn, you can just play this out and have like a big 30k plus attack with the instant transmission too. So I think all that's really good. I think this deck has a lot of cool combos, a lot of cool interactions. Your sequencing is really cool, and I'm happy that's relevant. I'm really happy that's relevant in this meta, because I was worried that it was, yellow might be too good at like getting around all this interaction that we have. But to see that it's still relevant, I think is really cool. So here's a build, and congratulations to Sensei for their finish with Cell. The next up, we've got Son Goku Mini Daima, and this was definitely a deck that was not on my radar. There's nothing really new about this, but man, this is an aggressive deck. So this is the one anti-heroes build of the deck, and it was on stream for like 10 minutes, right? It was probably one of, if not the fastest game of Fusion World I've ever seen. It ended on turn 4, where we were just able to get like a really good board. We were able to defend it throughout it. I think the Shin that we got from FB06 really helps this deck, being able to essentially get 2 bodies on the board and also take 2 cards from your life. Just exponentially helps you get that pressure that you need. So final turn, it was just like, well, I had 3 bodies with the Aandroidd 18 mini, the 2 drops on Goku Mini Daima, the Shin Mini Daima, and then the Glorio, right? This being able to be a 35k base card where your opponent's leader is a 15k in most situations means that they have to like give you a super combo and another card just to get out of an attack, which is absurd. So I know that this is a candle that burns bright, but man, when it burns, it's super good, and there's not a lot of decks that can really interact with it too. So I can see it do well against like Cell because you are just so aggressive, though you do have to worry about how they can interact with your board. And if you have like a Majin Buu player that's taking a little extra turn or 2 to set up, this is definitely a deck that can really punish that as well. So I don't have much more to say, but congratulations to the one anti-hero for their finish with the Son Goku Mini Daima. And then we also have Aandroidd 18. So we got Dannyhype's version of this deck. And one interesting thing immediately for me is that the premier reason that you would play this for most people is to play the future field card, right? The card that lets you attack into active characters, and is like really the only way that you can exist or like interact, with any of the barrier cards, right? Is that you can attack into them. You're not choosing them, you're just attacking into them, right? So because of that, a lot of people are on this, but Danny wasn't even playing the card. So you're really just kind of a trade-off on like Cell, where Cell, just the leader just gets the 40k attack whenever, but this deck lets you really convert some of your 1 and 2 drop attacks into something more impactful with a combination of, let's say I give something like minus 20k, then you can play like Aandroidd 18 for 1, get my card draw, and then pressure something, right? Or even like this Aandroidd 18, I think this card is like way better in this deck, right? So you're able to play this, you get to give something minus 5k, and then you get to give a 25k. So essentially this becomes like a 30k attack that you did for 1 energy, which is really strong. I do think like you are like applying less pressure on the leader specifically, but the fact that it's more flexible on how you can spread around that plus 20k across your battle cards, I think makes this deck like weird, like not like strictly better or worse, but just like a different way to play the red Aandroidd package, which I think is really cool. So other than that, we do play like a bit of the Cell chain. We're only playing 2 of the 5-drop Cell, which is fine. I think 3 copies is where I usually land on this card. It is good, but it is like a little bit clunky at times as well. We do have like the self-destruct. We are playing 2 copies of the instant transmission, which I think makes a little bit more sense when, again, like we need to pressure board a little bit more. But this is just like a deck that just gets a lot of value, can get a lot of pressure, and it's really cool to see Danny get a top 16 with it as well. So not much more to say, but congratulations for their top 16 with Aandroidd 18. So anyways, that is the end of the top 16 part of this video, and we've we've got a couple more deck lists that were in the top 32 that were unique. Some of these had X2 records, some of them have X3 records. I don't have that specifically right now, but I will update it when I do get it. But you know, it is kind of interesting to see that for this meta, right? It was almost only like yellow and red decks, right? We had you know, strictly speaking, we had one black deck in the top 16. The rest were just those two colors, which I think is interesting. But we do have a lot of green decks that we're going to look at real quick as well, and a couple others. But we're going to start off with our 18th place, which is the Vegeta from Broken TCG. And I know a lot of people were on this deck, right? The fact that it got a lot of support out of the SB01 set, right? The fact we got like another searcher, we got like the Son Goku, which is a great way to self-awaken and get some additional value from like having the artificial full moon out. We do also have like the Raditz super rare. We have the Nappa promo, which helps you get your artificial full moon, but also can get your warm greeting set up. And we also have the 3-drop Vegeta, which this being able to convert into a grade 8 Vegeta, I think is really strong for the deck. I haven't played this deck as much though, and it's interesting to see that we aren't playing the secret rare Goku, as well as we're only playing like 2 copies of grade 8 Vegeta and then 1 copy of Goku Black. So that in particular I think is really interesting, but we are also playing the Son Gohan Future at 5 copies. So this is a great card to kind of protect your field, where all your battle cards at the cost of 3 cannot be removed from the battle area by your opponent's skills. And then end of your turn, choose 1, play up to 1 battle card at the cost of 3 or less from your hand, or choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 3 or less and KO it. So that is something that, you know, the interaction with this deck is really good. We were mostly playing 3-drops, right? We've got like, we're even playing like 3-drop vanilla Vegeta, since it does work for the deck. It's a Saiyan only card, right? So it does work, even though this is an FB04 leader and this is an FB02 card. We do have like the Son Goku here. We've got the Raditz to be able to help you, you know, draw a card for it too. So it is like, I think there's a lot of cycle. There's a lot of ways for you to get your card value, and then just apply a lot of pressure by just a lot of attacks in one turn. So it is like an interesting build. I think most people are playing like 4 copies of Raditz, right? And then you know, they are like, I really have not seen a build without Secret Rare Goku for this leader too. So to see this go X2 at like a big event like this is really interesting. I definitely have to test it out a little bit more personally. And congratulations to Broken TCG for their finish there. Next up, we've got Joe is Banned with their copy of the UI Son Goku, and this is a really interesting one. I wasn't expecting this. If I was to expect a red deck, you know, I think Jiren has been like generically one of the better ones. Though the fact that like specifically Boo has an in-arc type way to now get rid of 4-drop Jiren makes it a little bit tough to like say that I want to play the deck anymore, right? But this is an older leader from FB04 as well. It has activate battle once per turn, choose up to 1 battle card in a battle area, and this card's original power becomes that same as that for the battle. So there you kind of can get out of an attack for like 1 or for free throughout the, you know, most of the game, right? Which is really cool to see. We do have like a lot of interaction and removal, but I don't know like what's our best way to interact with, you know, yellow still, right? We do have like some removal. We also have like the Frieza here. If your leader's Universe 7, special traits until the end of your opponent's next turn. This card cannot be removed from the battle area by your opponent's skills. It gets plus 20k power. And then when attacking, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards. It gets minus 10k for the turn. But you can use this card to like be a 45k, and then you get to stay a 45k. You know, or you get to 45k once with your leader ability, right? That's kind of the idea. Obviously, we've got like Son Goku, the secret rare 6-drop, right? Which I haven't been seeing as much because it's been, again, kind of falling out of favor a little bit, but it does work well at like keeping you at like 1 extra life at times. But it's a really interesting, but I really don't know how to take it, if I'm being honest, just because this was one I wasn't expecting. Maybe that's kind of the allure for it, right? People weren't expecting this deck or how to play against it, but I just don't know what your yellow matchup looks like, I guess is the big thing. But, you know, I think that this is an interesting leader. It's really cool to see that it did get a top finish here. And congratulations to Joe is Banned for their finish with Goku. Next up, we've got Janemba. So this is James's version of the deck. And Janemba's kind of had like this weird history where like you read the effects, right? Like the fact that you get to untap 2 energy aggressively in this game, which is unheard of, right? Like that is an absurd amount of energy. It just doesn't do that much, which is I find like it's never really been, I think, the best deck in yellow. It's been kind of like a side way to play the deck, but it's never been like obscenely better than any other yellow deck, right? Boo's kind of really overshadowed it in its history, but with this deck, we do have like a lot of like interesting plays. We do have like these bobbity combos, right? Like we kind of like yellow kind of has to play that, right? Which is really good. We have Frieza, where we are like actively the best leader to use this because on 4 we can use the effect. We are also playing the Deborah, which I think this is actually like a really cool tech for the deck. If you play Bobbity in the deck and you're expecting to play it every time, the fact that you are able to use like, you know, play this for 2, play a 30k and then untap the 2 energy afterwards. Sometimes like this deck does have like a weird time like actively using the 2 energy that you get back, or like spending 2 energy first to then spend it afterwards. So I think Deborah kind of fits that spot pretty easily as well, and the fact that you can make this a 30k afterwards and restand it is really nice. We do obviously have like Janemba. We also have like the Star Deck Vegeta here. So when attacking, you have 2 or more rest mode battle cards with a cost of 2 or more in your battle area. You get to draw 1, which is again not terribly difficult to do, right? Like you have so many of your own cards here that you can, you know, attack and get that boost there. We've got like Bio Broly, so that's good, and then also the 6-drop Frieza. So this is a really interesting build. It's also like a yellow deck that can like have like control aspects, but also you don't need to you know, keep energy open on the defense side, right? The only card that technically does that is Blue Power Awakening, but you're also kind of using this as like a way to interact with Broly and other decks that play those 6 costs or more. So with that, I think this is a cool build. I don't know if it's strictly better than any Majin Buu things that are going on, but I know a lot of people just love Janemba. They want the deck to work, and so here's a build that did well, and congratulations to James for their finish there. Next up, we've got Piccolo, and this card's been like on the radar because of its new support, right? It came out in FB03 with not a lot of fanfare, but it does have like a really fun and unique effect, right? So one attack, you get to draw 1, but also auto once per turn when this card attacks, deals damage. If you have 8 or more energy, you get to switch this card to active mode. So being able to attack and like, you know, deal damage, attack again, draw another card, right? All of that I think is really good for the deck in general, but it always had issues getting to that 8 energy, right? Unlike like 17 and 18 where they could just ramp it, like 8 is pretty trivial for that deck. This deck, it needs a little bit more power. So the new card that we got here was the strongest team up. This essentially lets you go from 6 to 8 because it lets you ramp 1 energy and then also lets you play out one of the, you know, your Piccolo and Goku, and as long as you get the Goku, you do get like that extra active energy. So that's really, really strong for you. Being able to have a 6-drop blocker, some decks don't really have a great way to interact with that. And then you're going to be at 9 energy next turn. So something that's also kind of unique for this deck too is that, like, let's say they don't get rid of your Son Goku. This is when KO'd. So you can attack with everything. You can play out your Broly BR. It KOs your own Goku, which means you get to draw 1 and then put a card in your energy active mode. And then like you can have energy for like a gigantic meteor or something. So there are some like really cool combos with this deck. I think there's ways to get value, and some decks like have a really tough time like interacting with how much damage and pressure this gets to the late game. My only issue with this deck is that you have to play so many cards without any counter, right? The fact that we have our combo, we've got Gigantic Meteor, we've got a Warm Greeting, Disruptive Strength, Days of Training, Special Beam Cannon, Unlock Ability, Strongest Team Up, right? Like there are so many cards, just extra cards we have to play. We're playing over half of our 26 cards of our 54 card deck are cards that just can't be used for free for counter, right? Which keeping energy open is not like, I think, terribly difficult for this deck, except for when the best deck in the format just taps all your energy. It just makes it really tough, I find. So it's still a deck that I think has like some issues, and it's a little lopsided. I do think it's the best that it's ever been, which more kind of says how bad it's been in the past. But it is really cool that they just print 1 card and this deck becomes, instantly more viable. And I know a lot of people are really testing it out too. So here's a build here from Piccolo, and this is the build here from SalmonSknRoll. Congratulations for their top 32 with the Piccolo there. And then to kind of wrap up our green block, we do have Broly BR, and this is the build here from King Bandit. I do think that Broly is still like a good like gatekeeper deck in this format. It's also kind of like a knowledge check where you do need to know how this deck works, how the interactions work, and if you do get rewarded for it. Because this is a deck that just has a lot of pressure. Some decks like have to make sure that they can interact with 8 cost and 9 cost. And like this 8-drop Broly BR is just so good at like applying pressure, healing, being able to be like, some decks just can't interact with it. And again, like the big issue with this deck though is that there are so many yellow decks that says, I can't outright get rid of it, or if I can, it's using like Blue Power Awakening, which I do know like a lot of people are attacking into their decks still, is that like I can just stun your stuff, and in worst case you still can't interact with barrier, right? Like your 9-drop Broly BR, yes, it's a really good card. you can't get rid of my blocker barrier. So like what is your actual chance, right? Double strike in some builds just does not exist because you can just get out of it for free in a lot of situations. So I do think this is a deck that does have some like lopsided matchups, but it does have some, that means that there are some good ones as well. I know that this is a deck that a lot of people still play and believe in. It's Broly, right? You gotta love Broly, and it is really cool to see you get a top 32 finish. So here's the build from King Bandit. Congratulations for their finish with Broly. And to wrap it up, we've got Son Goku GT. So this is Will's version of the deck. And you can kind of like compare and contrast this build with the first place baby build that we looked at the beginning of this video too. They're mostly playing like functionally a lot of the same cards, right? A lot of just the engine of where like Son Goku GT can facilitate a lot of value. We have ways to remove the Boo 2-drop, or sorry, 4-drop. In this build in specifics, it's Pan, right? Being able to just use the energy marker for 1 to be able to get rid of a 4 left back to your hand and draw a card. So I think that draw is really impactful. We do also have like the ultimate sparking. This is a card that wasn't in the first place list, but if you just have an energy marker up, Majin Buu can tap energy markers, so that means that they really can't deny this. And if they play like 5-drop Buu into 4-drop Buu, they attack with one of them, you can just ultimate sparking and get rid of, get out of both attacks for 1 energy investment, which is also just really, really good. So I think that specifically being able to have defensive cards that they can interact with because we generate the marker so often is something that is just like something that helps Black be really relevant against Buu specifically. So other than that, though, I think that this deck is, there's not much of a change, right, between the two builds, right? I think Son Goku GT is fine for this, right? And again, like I think Baby, Son Goku GT, and Bardock, all 3 of them are approximately as viable as each other. It just really comes down to your personal choice of which of these leaders you like a little bit more and the engine that they run. But Son Goku GT being able to get like that plus 15 or 10k power just means that like in the mid to late game you always have ways to use your energy for better advantage. If you don't have like the your 1-drops to continue to get card draw or get like the the additional advantage that you want to. So it's really cool to see this get a top 32 finish, and congratulations to Will for getting it there as well. But that's going to be it for this one. Again, if you guys want any of these deck lists, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events. Again, the shoutouts to Top Cut for not only running the event, but for letting myself and Dane do the live stream for it. You can find a link in the description, and I'm looking forward to future events in this format too. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.